record. And as I said in my email, the class is going to be 40 minutes because of my cold. I just thought an hour might be a bit too much for me. And I know a lot of you have asked for shorter classes anyway, so hopefully this will work for you. So just a couple of things before we actually start. Please remember that everything is optional. So if it doesn't feel right for you, listen to yourself and your heart and your instinct rather than me, and be guided by that. So everything that we're doing here is just a suggestion. And the second thing is, remember, you don't need to keep looking at your screens. If you find that tiring, you might like to prefer to work with your eyes closed and to just listen. So this is the second in our series on overcoming fear. So as I said in part one, I know there's an awful lot of scary things externally now, but if we can use all our yoga tools to be calm inside, which is really the essence of what yoga philosophy is about, then that really helps us, because that kind of sense of peace and calmness really starts with how we can look after our own mental health. And there are a number of really useful things that we can do to help with that. So I'm going to share some of these today. So I also want to say, if you want to take notes, because some of them you might want to use during the week if you are finding yourself anxious, but because I'm recording it and it's 40 minutes, you can also refer to the recording, which will be on YouTube. So I said earlier to those of you, not everybody had arrived, it's helpful if you can do the first one seated, or first couple seated. But if you're really tired and you need to lie down, that's fine. So we're going to start with breathing practice, which is it's called the physiological sigh, or I call it the sighing breath. And it's kind of like a biohack to help us come out of the stress response. Now, I just want to explain that technically, it's a hyperventilation exercise. So for that reason, you don't want to be doing it all the time. It's fine if you're anxious or to do it 3 or 4 times a day, but don't do it more than that. We're going to try it together now. So what we do is, first of all, think about your posture. Make sure that your lower ribs are open so that you are not constricting your diaphragm, so that this area is nice and free. And think about your spine, if you're sitting, you don't want it to be strained, but you think of making space between the crown of the head and the tailbone, and the shoulders relaxed away from the ears, and the spine being upright but not strained. So there's a sense of alertness, but also relaxation within your posture. So before we do any breath work, we start with our posture, and then we're just going to do a little bit of freeing of the shoulders and neck, because the neck and shoulders always get very involved in the stress response. So we just want to roll the shoulders a few times to release them. And then we can just take one ear to one shoulder, center the head, and the other ear to the other shoulder, center the head. Just do this a few times to release and relax the neck. And then if you like, you can just look over the shoulders a couple of times just to help the neck to be free. It's always good to do this before we start our breathing practice. And breath is actually one of the most powerful ways in which we can discharge stress and tension. So this physiological sighing breath, we're going to take 2 inhales in and then sigh the breath out through the mouth. So we breathe in through the nose twice. So it's like this, like 2 sniffs of air. So try that up to 5 times. Inhale, inhale, sigh. Inhale, inhale, sigh. So 3 to 5 times in your own breathing rhythm. And if it doesn't feel comfortable, listen to your body, not me. Don't do it. Just do it if it feels right. And then from that, just check in. So ask yourself the question, how am I? And see if you can make that as a awareness examination or observation without judgment. So you're being curious. How is my mind? How is my breath? How is my body? And just see if you can develop a sense of acceptance of how you are in this very moment. So you're not resisting your current experience. So we're doing our best to allow everything to be as it is. Now, I just want to say that when we're talking about fear and anxiety, which is what we are talking about, a very big thing, if we have ME, chronic fatigue, long COVID, or any other chronic health problem, sometimes we can be very afraid of our symptoms and we can be very afraid of the body itself. So I'm very aware of this. It's something I had to go through myself, which is why I'm very sympathetic. And I, know that yoga can help us to overcome that. Now, the way to overcome that fear of our symptoms is not to distract or to run away, but it's actually to turn towards those symptoms. Now, that might seem very difficult, and we don't have to do it all at once. We might just do it a little bit at a time, closing our eyes, feeling our body, thinking, well, that's not very pleasant. Maybe staying there, breathing in a sense of calmness and peace. And then after a few seconds, opening our eyes, looking around the room to take us a little bit away from the body, and then coming back into the body. But what we're aiming to do, even if the body does not feel safe or pleasant, is to begin to accept how our body is. And we might take a hand to the heart just to reassure ourselves, it's okay, it's okay. You can just tap on your heart, it's okay. So it takes time to turn towards our symptoms. I'm not expecting or suggesting we do it all here now, but I'm just saying that this is a strategy that we use over time, is turning towards our more difficult symptoms. So with this in mind, what we're going to do is we're going to start by rocking, because rocking is another hack that we can use to help to soothe the central nervous system. So just cross your hands on your heart, opposite hand to opposite shoulder. And you can also do this if you are lying. Close your eyes if it's comfortable, but you don't have to close them. And just slowly rock from side to side. And feel that you're soothing yourself as you rock. And you might want to experiment with rocking a little faster, more slowly, making smaller movements or large movements. But just be curious. And again, just have this sense that you are soothing yourself. There's a lot of clinical evidence, published evidence, to show that rocking really does help to soothe the central nervous system. And then come back to the center, or you can carry on rocking if you want. Drop your hands to your knees. And then in our last session, I suggested that you might like to focus on making something like a safe resource. So this is something you can have that you can bring your attention to if ever you feel anxious or that you feel overwhelmed and you can't quite cope. So a safe resource might be something physical, like the softness of your hands or your breath or your feet. It might be a sense of the floor, which you can touch, or it might be a picture of a loved one or a pet. It might even be a stone or a pebble that you like to hold. It might be a picture that you have near you. Now, in a minute, we're going to develop this idea a little more of our safe resource. But just take some time now to think what you can think of as your safe resource, because we're going to do a short meditation, and I'd like you to have this safe resource in your mind. So what I'd like you to do here, while we're all together in the safety of this community, is to think of something that you are finding slightly alerting and tricky, not too tricky, not too overwhelming, but just something very slightly challenging. Please make sure it's not something that's too challenging. And then I'd like you to think about where you feel this in your body. So come out of your head, come into your body. And then take your hand. It might be that you're not feeling it as something that's physical. But if you are, and if you're not, that's fine too. But if you can have a sense of this slightly challenging thing that you're dealing with, having a physical effect in the body, just take your hand to wherever that's affecting you. So quite commonly, it might be the belly, might be butterflies there, might be the heart, might be the head, maybe the head's buzzy and overwhelming. Just take your hands in a soothing manner to the part of your body where you're feeling it. And as I say, if you don't feel it anywhere, that's fine. And remember, anytime you want to, you can just think about your safe resource. So with your hand on that body part, come out of your head now if you can. So we're not thinking about what it is, we're feeling it. And just have a sense of, does it have a vibration? Does it have a shape? Tingling? Color? And then breathe into it and have a sense of breathing in peace on the in-breath. And as you breathe out a sense of spaciousness. So breathing in peace to whatever this is in the body. Breathe out spaciousness. Remember to use your safe resource at any time you need to come out of whatever it is you are feeling. So what we're doing here is we're just learning to befriend the body. We're learning to turn towards something, but not something that's too difficult. And then what if you still have a sense of that sensation? Just imagine that it's like a small child and that you are embracing it and nourishing it and telling it it's okay. And if you need to use a physical gesture, you might like to tap on it, or stroke it, bring a sense of light to it. Just tell yourself it's okay, it's okay. Anytime you need to, you can open your eyes and look around your space. Feel your feet on the floor. And then when you're ready, drop your hands to your knees. Feel a sense of your feet on the floor and your bottom on your chair. Just feel that solidity, the chair holding you, the floor nourishing you. If you're lying down, feel the floor supporting you. And when you're ready, just open your eyes. And look around your space. Rub your hands together. Roll your shoulders a couple of times. And just feel yourself come back into your body. And just note how you're feeling. Again, without judgment, with a sense of compassion and a sense of kindness to however you are. Just observe that. So the next kind of biohack we're going to use is one that actually has been shown to rewire the brain to help us to cope with anxiety. And it's called looking for the glimmers. So there's quite a famous neuroscientist called Deb Dana. She works with Dr. Stephen Porges on polyvagal theory. And this might be something you practice already. But she gives the practice of looking for glimmers. She calls them glimmers every day. So she talks about very, very small things that give us pleasure. So it might be like our sip of tea in the morning. It might be stroking our pet. It might be looking at a beautiful flower, talking to a young relation. But she says the more that we can do that, the more that we can wire our brain for happiness. So that instead of looking for really big things in life to make us happy, we're just looking for really small things to give us a sense of happiness and contentment. And somebody, a wonderful girl called Debbie, shared something on our Facebook community. And she was explaining that when she had long COVID for a couple of years, she made a jar. And every time there was a little thing that made her happy, she'd write it down on a piece of paper and she'd put it into her jar. And then whenever she felt unhappy or overwhelmed, she would go to her jar and pull out the note she'd made. So I'm just offering that as something that you might like to use, looking for glimmers or maybe making a happiness jar. So with that in mind, we're now going to do another meditation. So for this, you can lie down or sit, whatever feels better for you. And if you like, you can close your eyes. If you'd rather leave them open, that's fine too. So this is like a cross between a relaxation and a meditation. And some of you have done this with me before, but it's incredibly effective. So I'd like you to imagine in a circle around you are all the people who've ever supported you. They can be imagined, they can be real, they can be people from history, they might be people you've not actually met but have inspired you. And of course, they can be pets. It can even be nature. So in my case, I would use trees because I love trees. And there'd be a lot of animals in my circle. So it might be a big circle, it might be a smaller circle. And as you sit or lie, I would just like you to imagine that your circle is directing love and compassion towards you. So on every in-breath, you are breathing in love and compassion into your heart from this circle. This circle that wishes you nothing but wellness and joy. So you breathe that in on every exhalation, on every inhalation. On every exhalation, just send it down into the body. Inhale it into your heart on the in-breath. Exhale it to wherever you need it in your body or being on your out-breath. And as we do this, we can maybe think about a sense or embrace a sense of gratitude for our loved ones. And if you can't access gratitude today, that's fine too. But if you can, just think about somebody, something that you're grateful for. And then take a hand to your heart. Just feel this compassion, this gratitude, this love there. Have a sense of it being there for you. And then when you're ready, we're going to open the eyes. And then we're going to do a couple of breathing exercises which really have been shown to help with anxiety. They really help the to bring in the parasympathetic nervous system, if that means anything to you. What it means is it soothes us out of the stress response. So again, these are things that you can use at any time. So we're going to start with the coherent breath. So for the coherent breath, which is particularly good for long COVID, which also means it's good for ME, we breathe in for the same length of time that we breathe out. So I'm going to suggest that you breathe in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 4. But if that's too much for your breathing, you can make that in for 2 and out for 2. If you're particularly good at breathing, you might make that up to 6. But just choose a ratio that works for you. The important thing is that the in-breath is the same length of time as the out-breath. And just to help us, we're going to take one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly. And breathing through the nose if you can. And if you can't yet do that, that's fine too. So breathing in, breathing out, making that equal ratio. So in your own breathing rhythm, we're going to take a few breaths like that. So you can access this breathing rhythm whenever you feel overwhelmed or anxious. And then when you're ready, drop your hands to your knees and take a moment just to rest and observe how you are now. Again, be curious, we're not making any judgments. Just observing if the mind is a little calmer. If it's not, that's fine too. Coming into the body, how is the body? How is the breath? And then we're going to use another breathing technique. Again, this is well known to help to take us out of the stress response. And it's to make the exhalation longer than the inhalation. So again, you can use your hand on your chest and your belly, or you can leave your hands on your knees. Breathe through your nose if you can, but if you can't, that's fine. But breathe in. And as you exhale, make the out breath up to twice as long as the in breath. If you can't do that, that's fine, but this is something to aim for. So for example, you might breathe in for a count of 2 and out for a count of 4. In for a count of 3 or out for 6. If you've got breathing difficulties, it might be just breathing in for 1 and out for 2. Just see what you can do without straining anything. The most important thing is that nothing should be forced. If anything doesn't feel right, you come back to your normal breathing rhythm. And now for the next 5 breaths, I'd like you to hum the breath out as on the exhalation. So you inhale through the nose. This for 5 breaths. And then with your eyes closed, just observe how you are now. Coming back into the body if the mind has wandered. And I'm just going to drop a reflective question to you. And the reflective question is, how real are my thoughts? And if my thoughts are always changing, does that mean they are real? And does fear come from the way I think? And obviously it then has an impact on the physical body. What is my ability to change my thinking? What can I input into my mind to help make me calmer? And then I'm going to give you the Eckhart Tolle quote, which is, in this moment, there is nothing to fear. There is only fear if we leave this moment, and that arises as a thought. In this moment, there is nothing to fear. There is only fear if we leave this moment, and that can only arise as a thought. So we're going to do a physical exercise next. When I say exercise, I don't mean anything that's dynamic or scary. And of course, I've got a nice soft option for this. This is something I put in one of my books, Endless Energy, which I wrote in 2002. And I'd actually forgotten about it until Alexa reminded me on the Facebook community. And it's the cross crawl. And it helps to reset the motor cortex of the brain. So again, it's a very good hack to get us out of fear. Now, there's two variations of doing this. I'm meant to bring a dining room chair here, and I haven't got one, so I'm going to sit on that chair just to demonstrate it. So I'm going to show you the seated version first, and then I'm going to show you the slightly more energetic one, which is to be crawling on the floor. So for this, you might like to look at your screen. So if you want to do the seated version, all you're going to do is have your hands on your knees and lift your right hand and your left foot and drop. Lift your left hand and your right foot and drop. And you're just going to march up and down like this. So opposite hand to opposite foot, just a few times. So that's the first variation. The second variation, or the full exercise, which is actually a bit more effective. It's something that we see babies doing as they're developing because it's helping their brain to develop. So we're cross-crawling. So when babies are developing, they use same side crawling. So I'm just showing you right knee, right hand, then left knee, right hand. As the brain develops, they start to do this in a cross-crawl motion because it helps their brain develop and it helps our brains. So what we do, I'm on my mat if you're looking up, I take my right hand and my left knee forward, then my left hand and my right knee forward. So just around the room, you can try this. And if it's too energetic for you, you can do the seated version. So this is the cross crawl. Just take a few movements, don't do too many, don't tire yourself. Listen to your energy levels and honor them. And then when you are ready, I'd like you to come down to a comfortable lying position for a 10-minute visualization relaxation. Take your time. So do use padding under your head and knees, eye masks, blankets, anything that you might need. And just take a moment or two to inquire again from what we've done this morning, including the cross call, how am I now? And again, try to bring in a sense of acceptance and non-resistance, just checking in. And then take a moment or two to feel your support underneath you and the connection of your back with your support. Feeling the weight of your head. Feeling the solidity of your support holding you and supporting you. Feeling your heels, backs of the hands, shoulders, everything that's touching. Just observe that support. And then just have a sense of faith that whatever is happening, if we can come out of the fearful stories that the mind tells us, we have a sense of faith of being held and supported by life. So the word for faith in Sanskrit is Shraddha. Very important concept in yoga, that faith, that life, and also our yoga practice will help to support us whatever is happening. So I'm going to turn my camera off just for 10 minutes or so while we do the relaxation. Now, tomorrow is actually a full moon. I think it's a full moon in Gemini. But if you're watching the recording, that won't be relevant. But what I'd like you to do now is to visualize a full moon, milk white and luminous. And visualize this just a little way in front and above you. Now make the moon bigger and bigger. And then it's so big that you're going to be able to imagine that you're getting up and placing yourself in the moon and able to settle yourself in there comfortably. Now imagine a seat in the moon that you're going to use. You can sit cross-legged, or you can lie down, or just imagine any kind of seat that you think, or bed, that you would be comfortable in. You can lie back on cushions, or anything you would like to use. Take your attention to your hands and your back, and think of the most fabulous thing that you can touch and feel and lie on under your hands and back. Might be velvet or silk, cotton wool, sponge. Just feel the most wonderful sensation of touch. And enjoy settling into your support. Now imagine that you are looking around and you see the most perfect landscape. Could be anything you would like, mountains, sea, countryside. And this landscape is all around you, 360 degrees, all around you. Now think of the most beautiful sound that you would like to hear and listen to. It might be beautiful music, particular sound you find beautiful, or it might be silence. Whatever it is, just allow it to fill the air. Now imagine the most wonderful smell, comforting, safe smell you really like, something that is almost a divine smell. Just imagining it infusing your space. Now think of something you would like to taste, the most wonderful taste you can imagine, and let it fill your mouth. And if you don't want to taste anything, that's fine too. Now just contemplate how your own mind can rest on these things and create happiness and feel the most amazing sensations of contentment, being here in the milky white sphere of the moon, being able to look at your most wonderful sight, hear lovely sounds, and taste lovely tastes and touching sensations. Be aware that the mind can create this and feel that you are totally comfortable, happy, and filled with joy in this place. When you are ready, just begin to move your fingers and toes, or if you would like to stay and rest, please do so. Become aware of the feeling of your body on your support, touch of air on your face, and the feeling of your clothing and your coverings. Being aware of any sound you can hear, the sensation of your body lying on your support. And again, become aware of the breath. Think of the breath being slow and low in the body. If you don't want to focus on the breath, think of your safe resource. And again, just see if you can extend the exhalation. So making the exhale slightly longer than the inhale. And then breathing normally, just observe again how you are feeling. And if you are feeling calm, remember that this is actually your true nature. This is who you are, the real you behind the chatter and stories of the mind. And this is always available for you to access. It's just a matter of coming back into the body, coming into the present moment, and allowing the mind to become quieter. Using tools to allow the mind to become less fearful and scattered, to be here now. And I'm going to leave you resting. And thank you all very much for being here. And I wish you a beautiful, restful week. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everybody. Lots of love. Om Shanti.